Bryant, and I'm your councilwoman for the town of Prescott Valley, and this is Council Chat. Yay! And I have two guests with me today that I'm very excited about. Mary Lee Fowler is the executive director of Matforce, and Nikki Adonovich, sorry, is an advocate for our kids, and she's a good friend of mine and a wonderful mom and so much more. So thank you, ladies, for being here. I'm so excited. We have a very important topic today, and let's get started with Matforce. I see your vision is working together, reducing substance abuse in Yavapai County.
That's right.
That's wonderful. Mm-hmm. So Matforce started to address out-of-control meth use. That's why you started. Mm-hmm. And I learned from your website that because of your efforts that crime, prosecution, and use was like totally reduced.
It was.
So congratulations
Thank you.
on that. So Mary Lee, why don't we start by you telling me, first of all, give your contact number and email,
Okay.
and then tell me a little bit about the 12 Sectors of Substance Abuse Coalition, and
Okay.
also about Matforce, if you will.
Wonderful.
Thank you.
Well, our phone number is 928-708-0100, and you can reach us at matforce@cableone.net also, which is a good common email address for people. So Matforce, as you mentioned, is a coalition of people from all different sectors of the community that are working together to try to reduce substance abuse issues in our county. And that takes us a lot of different directions, but it is really important that we have representation from all the different sectors. So the 12 sectors are, we have the faith-based community, we have media, we have the business community, we have the medical community, we have the treatment and recovery community, we have law enforcement, we have government officials, we have youth serving organizations, we have the schools, I don't think I mentioned them, we have civic organizations, and youth serving nonprofit organizations. So again, it's a lot of different people from all these different sectors that work together to come up with solutions to address our substance use problems.
Great. So, I don't want to say this, but Prop 207 passed. And Matforce has this great flyer on how to talk to your teens about the legalized marijuana. I think one of the most impactful statements on that flyer, which I think is available on your website, is legal doesn't mean safe. So now what?
Well, now that we have legalized, 1 ounce of marijuana for anyone 21 years and above, we need to do everything we can to prevent youth from using the substance, right? And that's Matforce's primary focus, is prevention. We want to do everything that we can to convince children to never start using substances. And the reason for that is because of their adolescent brain. And we know that when we look at people that develop use disorders, or more commonly some people call it addiction, 9 of 10 of those individuals started as a teenager. And that's why it's so important to Matforce that we prevent kids from ever starting to use, whether it's tobacco products, alcohol, marijuana, any, illicit or legal drug that can cause, their brain to be impaired. And so with marijuana right now, we just have to do everything to prevent kids. So we need to look at keeping it safe. If parents are using it, they need to make sure that it's locked up, just like we say they need to do that with their alcohol. We need to make sure that we are having conversations with our kids about marijuana, that we're having open communication and talking to them. And like you said, just because it's legal does not mean it's safe. And for them to really understand this potent marijuana that's out there today and the dangers of that for them using it as a young person. I truly believe that kids are smart, and when we have those really good common sense conversations with them, they're going to listen to us. We need to make sure that we're not being critical of anything that they want to say, that we're respectful and we're listening to their point of view, but then giving them good scientific information.
Awesome. So those flyers are available on your website.
They are, yes.
And I know the school district has them too. So thank you very much for that. That was great information. Nikki, you're a mom of teens, a very good mom of teens, let me say. How have you talked to your kiddos about marijuana and legalization?
Yeah, so this is a conversation that's been ongoing in my home. When we talk about marijuana legalization, it had happened in other states, and that was a conversation I had with my kids. And that was to preempt them, and let them know, yes, this may become legalized. This has been legalized other places, but it's still not safe for you. And I think Marilee brings up great points on that. Developmentally, My children don't understand that their brains aren't ready for that. They don't know that they're not able to keep themselves safe when under the influence. So we have to have that conversation. This is going to alter your decision making. That's huge when you're talking to teens. If you're not able to keep yourself safe, that's a problem for our family. And that's the goal. I think with my kids, I always drive it home with them. It is about making sure you're safe, period. That's a non-negotiable. My kids will hear me say it all the time. Is this safe? Is this smart? Should we be doing that? And I think that conversation is ongoing. And marijuana wraps right into alcohol. We've had that conversation with our kiddos, what it does to them, what it can do to them if they continue to use it. And I think it's just a number of things that we have to kind of prepare our kids for. And unfortunately, this probably is going to make it more common and accessible for young people. So my kids need to be able to arm themselves with information that gives them the tools they need to turn that down, or come to me in the event that they have not turned it down. And that's a conversation I think parents shy away from. You suspect that your child has used, you suspect they may be exposed. You have to be very forward with them in that. Look, I think that you've done this. Let's have a conversation. Leave the punishment to the side and really listen to what your kids are saying. Because more kids use than parents admit their kids have, which means a lot of parents don't understand their kids have already been exposed. And that age group is even younger than we've ever thought. It used to be the elementary school was kind of a safe zone. You didn't have to see this there. But we're seeing that kids in 6th grade and 5th grade are being exposed. And so you start those conversations early. I've had conversations with my 1st grader. They're a little bit less detailed because she doesn't understand all of that just yet. But we do start with keeping her body safe, and that's key. If you can teach your kids how to keep their body safe, they're going to be more comfortable in these situations. And you as a parent will be able to say to them, is this safe? And they'll know what that means in its entirety.
That's awesome. Anything to add, Marilee, on Matforce or marijuana?
One thing I think that's important for people to realize is since we've passed this initiative, it's now state statute, but the Arizona Department of Health Services is developing the rules and regulations around marijuana, and we want to make sure that those rules again protect our children. And I also think that as town councils and city councils have some decisions that they need to make with ordinances, and we're just encouraging them to make good rules and ordinances that are going to protect our children. So.
And I'm so glad you brought that up. I know our community development director, Richard Parker, is already working on that with our attorney. So
Wonderful.
I think early next year that'll be something we look at.
Wonderful.
Pretty quick.
Thank
So
you.
I'll make sure you guys get information on that. Nikki, why don't you talk a little bit about the meeting we had with the mayor and your desire as well as ours to do a full court press on removing fentanyl pills from circulating in our area.
Absolutely. So as a mom and an active community member, I would say about 18 months ago, I started seeing that there was some really dangerous things playing out with our young people. My work tends to center around children because I do believe that if we can catch them early, young adults are more successful when we have given them resources as children. And so we started seeing these death rates climb here in Prescott Valley, and it was devastating. It was hitting every corner. The thing about pills and fentanyls and drug use is that it's not predictable. It happens to every family. Gender is irregardless, really. It doesn't matter. Age, they're younger than they've ever been. Socioeconomic status has no impact, which means every family in Prescott Valley needs to be aware of what's happening with our young people. Nobody's safe from this. No kid is immune from trying just one pill and paying with their life. So I reached out to Mayor Kell, who I adore, who I've had a great relationship with for many years, since even before he was our mayor, and said to him, I'm a mom, I'm frustrated, I feel powerless to stop this in my own children and children I love in this community. What can we do? And that kind of brought forth an idea of forming a coalition that's specific to Prescott Valley, because we know that some of the issues we face here are specific to Prescott Valley. We have a very large school district here that's super active in the community, that we could utilize resources there and bring people to the table and really have these conversations. I think there's some things that are fairly easy to do, that a coalition could kind of put together, and just communicating outwardly about these issues is huge for families. The great things about Prescott Valley is that it is family.
Right.
It feels much like a family. So just like any other family, we have a problem we have to address. And it's going to require that we all sit down and have this conversation. Mayor Cal's been great about being open about his interest in providing resources for young families. And I think that's a huge first step. For a long time, Prescott Valley didn't feel like a place for young families. And I think the mayor has turned that around, and the city council as well, in really saying, our families are here. We want to make sure this community is serving their needs. And this issue with our kids has to be a number one priority for us.
I agree with you. Thank you. And we are very family oriented. I know I ran my campaign on that. And partnership with the school district is very important to us. So thank you for saying that. So 2 words I totally removed from my vocabulary a long time ago were fight and hate. And I brought them back because I hate fentanyl, and I want to fight with all my might to try to take care of it, like you guys took care of meth. So they're back in my vocabulary. So our next step then was to meet with Matforce and Sheila Polk, our attorney, to kind of talk about, Matforce already has a coalition, how could we fit under them? And then we came up with forming a working group in Prescott Valley under the Prescott Area Steering Committee, which is Matforce. Can you tell me a little bit about them?
Absolutely. So the steering committee, again, we make sure that we have representatives from all the 12 sectors. And so we have many leaders. Laura Lee Nye has been on our steering committee since I think the very beginning. So there's elected officials, school superintendents, it's just law enforcement again. And we just Matforce has a strategic plan. And so the steering committee just makes sure that we're moving forward with implementing the strategies in our strategic plan and giving us the resources that we need. And again, as a coalition of people working together, it takes all of us. And for us to get the information out there or to move forward with strategies, listening to Nikki talk about talking to her kids, we need to be everybody working together with this very complicated problem. So the steering committee just provides some direction on this side of the mountain, and then we have a Verde Valley steering committee on the other side of the mountain.
Great. So tell me how excited you were after that meeting.
I was super excited. And I think what excites me the most about this community is that I didn't have to try to build this from the ground up. Marilee had great resources. She had great advice. I went to the website that night and I lost a couple hours of my life because there are answers to the problems that our community is facing. There are ways we can do that. And there's nothing more frustrating than doing work where you don't have solutions. This has solutions. They're built in to what Matforce has done. So I think if Prescott Valley can kind of pull that together and really get everybody on the same page, we can use those solutions and that data to build this team that is always looking out for our kids. It really comes down to being at the table, really sitting there and having a conversation about what's going on with these kids. Because I don't know anybody in this community that is not just as concerned about these headlines as you and I.
Right. And so speaking of that, this is something, the reason why we're doing this is because we never want to open the paper again and see anything like this. So I'm just so encouraged that you all were so successful with meth and that we have an opportunity to be successful with fentanyl as well. So Marilee, you recently conducted a webinar with Dr. Paul Bratwaite and Sergeant Jared Winfrey on fentanyl in our area, and you gave some really dynamic statistics. Could you share those with us, please?
Yeah, and they're very sad statistics, but to the point of what we're discussing, something that's very unusual with fentanyl is that in our county alone, we've had 9 teenagers who have died since 2018 from this very terrible drug, fentanyl, this illicit fentanyl. And I think it's important for people to realize this isn't prescription fentanyl that you would get from a doctor. This is illicit fentanyl that is coming into our county, illegally through drug traffickers. And so another statistic, in 2016, Matforce developed the Overdose Fatality Review Board, and we started looking at overdose deaths. And what we wanted to do was to learn from those deaths and come up with solutions to prevent deaths from happening. And something that has, again, that has changed, looking at fentanyl deaths in 2018, we never saw a teenager die prior to this fentanyl. You know, it just wasn't something that, you know, even with heroin and different things, you know, early 20s that you would see deaths, but not teenagers. And when we look at 2 14-year-olds in our county, I mean, that's just absolutely devastating. So 9 teenagers that have died. Another statistic that I want to point out that's very important for us to look at the magnitude of this problem is that in 2019, we had 10 fentanyl deaths in our county where fentanyl was listed, you know, in the toxicology report, and that was 15% of the overdose deaths. But so far in 2020, when we look at the deaths through October, we've already had 33 fentanyl deaths, and that was 46.5% of our overdose deaths. So that's already a 300% increase in 1 year. And I'm really concerned that by the end of 2020, when we see all of the data through December 31st, it could even be a 400% increase in fentanyl deaths. It's a huge problem, and we need to really be taking a serious look at what we need to do to solve this problem.
It just feels like somebody knocks the air out of you when you say those statistics. It's just heartbreaking.
It is.
So, Marilee, is it fair to say that synthetic manufactured fentanyl looks identical to prescription pills, and that it's a lethal substance 10,000 times stronger than morphine?
It can be. The carfentanil is 10,000 times the power of morphine, which is just unheard of. And again, what we're finding, you know, from law enforcement and different places where they've confiscated these illicit pills, that it can look like, you know, they have the M30s, which can look like an oxycodone.
Right.
They can put it in Xanax. They can make it look like aspirin, of all things, baby aspirin. You know, it's, you know, they're finding all different pills, you know, the greens, the blues, they've seen pink pills. And so again, they're putting it in any type of substance that somebody might just think, oh, I'm taking this prescription pill, and have no idea that it's a pill that has fentanyl. And people need to realize that when we look at these deaths, a very tiny, minute amount can kill somebody.
Right.
And that, you know, when they're manufacturing these pills, it's not done in a pharmaceutical setting where they're making sure that it's, you know, that this substance is being spread over these pills equally. You know, one story that I heard of, a 19-year-old that was an ASU student, he and his friend both took a Xanax that they thought was a legal Xanax, and they were, you know, counterfeit Xanax. And the one boy woke up the next morning and the other boy didn't, because it had a lethal dose of fentanyl. And so we just need to make sure that parents realize and kids realize, do not stick anything in your mouth that you do not know, you know, that came specifically from your doctor for you. It's just a very, very serious problem right now.
Right. I know our hearts go out to those families who have suffered loss. It's just devastating. And like Nikki said, we're a family here in Prescott Valley, and we always say the party of Prescott Valley, and we want to stick together and help our kids. So you gave us a copy of the 2018 Criminal Justice Survey that surveys 8th, 10th, and 12th graders, and our Commander Edelstein recently gave a talk to the Prescott Valley Chamber of Commerce, and it's on Facebook, and he mentioned that 56% of the youth in our community do not see alcohol or illegal drugs as dangerous. Nikki, you're coming up with partners to put on our Prescott Valley's fentanyl working group. Tell us how somebody can contact you and get on that group. And I know we're going to try to meet in January, but that 2018 Criminal Justice Survey is going to be one of the things we look at first, because when we met with Sheila Polk, she said this is the why. This will tell you the why in that survey. So tell us your plan for the working group.
So I think one of the first things this working group needs to do is understand the problem that we're facing. So for me, coming into this, even watching as closely as I do and being so active in this community, I did not know a lot of the things that Marilee knew, obviously. So that's going to be step one. We have to get a working group that is very active and engaged in the data. What is it telling us? What does this look like? Then we need to look at the things that protect children from this.
Right.
There are a lot of options for this community to address this. We know that after-school programs help kids stay off drugs. We just know that to be a fact. If you can keep them busy, then that is less time they have being out and potentially being exposed. We know that a lot of this stuff is happening online, social media. Kids are being targeted. We need to give parents the tools to combat that. How do you talk to your kids about that? How do you prevent them from shutting down? I know with my teenagers, I say, let's talk about your Instagram, and it is just like lights out from them. They don't want to discuss it. It is their world. And you have to have tools to kind of pull that out of them. You have to understand how to approach your teen in a way that there's not an invasion of privacy, but you can keep them safe, and you have tools in place for that. There are options for parents to do that. I know for me, even as advanced as I am with technology, I'm completely confused by my children's phone. So I use apps that kind of decode that for me and help me understand this world that they're living in. Just a couple of those little fixes to empower parents would be huge. And I know I work with a lot of parents. They do feel disarmed by this. They don't know how to approach their teens in a way that they don't get a strong reaction and their kid doesn't shut down on them. And so I think if we can just do some of these things as a working group and start putting in place these practices and working with our parents closely, like I said to you both, I'll go door to door and tell parents these resources are available. If you think your child's in trouble, please reach out. We will help you with this. You're not alone in this fight. Your child is not alone in this fight. We will be there for you. And I think that working group is going to kind of be your frontline defenders. You know, really people that are trained on the issues, understand the data, and know what resources need to come into these families to help these children get through this.
Right.
And hopefully sooner than later, because every day that we don't do something in our community, we risk a child, and that's just really not a risk anybody's willing to have
Right.
in this community any longer.
Thank you. So my daughter's 29 years old now, and I remember when she was little, you can't just pick them up from school and say, "Did you have a good day?" "Yes."
Yeah.
"How was school?" "Good."
Mhm.
You have to ask questions, like you said, that requires more than a yes, no, or a good or fine answer. So I appreciate that. And these apps could actually save kids' lives.
Yeah.
And so I think that's great. I like it. I like that. And I know you have a humongous tribe
I do.
that you can do assignments to them, and they will be out knocking on doors and what have you. So you're the
do.
perfect person to be on this working group with us. So many of you may have seen, or I know you follow the mayor and you probably do too, but Mayor Palguda was asked by Miss Sunderman, who's a 7th and 8th grade teacher at Glassford Middle, to come and talk to the children about a time capsule project they were working on. And you know our mayor, he's great with everyone of all ages, but he said, okay, what do you guys think of Prescott Valley? Because they're going to be future voters someday. And that was his goal, to find out what they thought. And the skate park came up with all of them. And it's safety and their safety. And so he was so proud of them. I mean, when he was telling me about it, he was just overjoyed that they communicated that to us. And for the mayor, this year, when we work on our budget, which we're going to do the beginning of January, one of our major priorities, along with this working group, is to get cameras in our parks. First of all, at the skate park. So tell me what you think of that.
I think it's great. So I'll say my son is in that classroom. He met with Mayor Kell,
good.
and he was a huge fan of our mayor, which I knew he would be. And I think my oldest son frequents the skate park. You will see him there all the time. If he's not working or in school, he's down there. And it frustrates me that he can't be safe down there. So I think anything we can do to allow these children to have this space, we should do. There is no reasonable explanation why our children should not be able to go to that park and feel completely safe, completely supported, and able to spend their time there. There are limited resources in this community for young activities for young people. They should have this. It should be safe. It should be a top priority for our community. I have heard from a lot of parents saying, shut it down, don't let your kids go there. I don't think that's the response this community needs to have. I think we need to take that skate park back from people who have ill intentions in it. That is for our children. It was built for our children. They have every right to be there. So if cameras give them the right to be there safely, then that's absolutely what we should do. As a mom, I know when my son's at the skate park, I drive by a lot, and he knows, and his friends wave, and he hates it, and it makes him a little crazy. But we don't care, right? Because we love him, and we want him safe. So now it has become kind of a running joke. His mom's going to come down there and wave. That's going to happen. I will say a couple of weeks ago, Prescott Valley Police Department also came down, and my son came home and was very excited to tell me that the police officers had come down, had talked to the kids. He said they weren't asking for anything.
Good.
They just were getting to know these children. And that is huge for the relationship these kids have with law enforcement. And those kind of steps at the skate park or any park where this activity is happening is huge for kids because they want to be there. They want to be safe. They want a space to ride their skateboards, which I hate skateboards, but we're going to let them do it anyway.
Right.
And they deserve that from us. Absolutely.
And I know he said some of the kiddos talked about time for scooter, time for different age kids. Yeah. And so we're going to look at all that. Okay, so let's wrap up. Marilee, are you looking for donations or volunteers?
Mm-hmm. Well, of course, we can always take donations, and volunteers is what we are. A lot of volunteers that work together with us. And so if anyone's interested in being a part of a work group or on our speakers bureau or a community coach for the Yavapai Reentry Project or a Matforce ambassador is another volunteer program that we have, please contact us at our website or a phone number, and we'd love to work with them.
Well, and I'm hoping there's retired people out there like me who have some experience, even in a clinician or a therapist or what have you, that can help us.
Absolutely.
So, and then tell us how someone or a business or service club can schedule a speaker.
They would just call our office, 928-708-0100, and we have a host of speakers. Like Dr. Braithwaite that you mentioned is on our Speakers Bureau. We have pharmacists, we have law enforcement officers, we have people in recovery. So, depending on what they would like to hear the topic be on, we can find a speaker for them. So we would love to have them contact us.
Perfect, and I know I'm in a couple clubs that I'm going to call you about. So, Nikki, what wisdom can you leave with our viewers who could be parents or grandparents?
I would say for parents, I understand the position that they're in. 100%, I am in the same. You want to respect your child's privacy. You want to let them make the mistakes they need to make as adolescents to become young adults. But you also want them safe. So have this conversation with your children. I respect your privacy. I want you to have freedom, but it needs to be in a safe arena. So let's talk about how we make that safe for you. I think that's key with parents. I think an acknowledgement to your children that you don't understand what they're going through is huge.
Right.
I often say to my teenagers, I don't understand the world that you're living in, and I need you to help me with that. I need you to tell me why you're feeling this way, or why your peers have exposed themselves in this manner. That way we both can move together. I think you have to be honest with the kids about the headlines. They're seeing this in their community. They probably have already lost a friend at some point, or they know somebody, so they are dealing with this. If you're a parent and you're not talking to them about it, they're doing it alone, and that's hard. For young people, it can mentally have serious ramifications. If you allow children to work through grief and fear on their own, it can be serious for them in the long run. So have that conversation. If you're a parent, you're going to come to the table trying to solve it. I would advise you not to. Your kid should probably be talking more than you, and that's hard because parents want to fix things, but we can't. Just giving them a space to open up about this is huge. And even if it's you simply saying, I don't know how to help you, but let's talk about how you're feeling. That's huge for kids. Just give them time to talk and share what they're seeing with their peers. That's step one. And then watch in the community for resources like Matforce. You can follow them on Facebook and just get little tips on how to talk to your kids about this. So you're not doing it alone. I know for parents it can be sometimes we don't want to act because we might do more damage. Follow the professionals and they'll help you through that.
Right. You guys, thank you so much for being here. This was awesome and so important. We will be, for the viewers, we will be having more sessions like this. It's so important, and we're going to do a full court press. So thank you, thank you, thank you.